save white, so we've used a combination of painting around or blocking and masking fluid. So I have my palette here from when we did the first layer, so I cleaned my palette out afterwards, but I like to keep it kind of messy until I'm ready to go. So I'm going to give a sense of this pot down here now, so that the cat doesn't look like she's floating. So I'm just going to put some gold color underneath this area there, and the gold color is just kind of a mix of all my three colors that we used. And where does the pot hit the cat? So I'm going to come off here and sort of hint at that pot shape, and I'm going to find my ellipse. It might be different on my painting than it was in the photograph, so I have to go with the painting now to make sure my proportions are accurate to the subject inside my painting. So I might lose that ellipse a little bit there. And then I have a bunch of grasses and things here, so I want to find the darks in here by painting around. So I've got to remember what colors I used. A little bit of phthalo blue here, so I'll start with that. And I'm just going to find the inside shape of that pot. Now I've got to remember that phthalo blue is a very staining color, so once I get it down there, I can't move it around too much unless I use some tricks. So I'm just going to go around the back foot and right into that cat at this stage. And when I come around, I'm going to paint around the ear. So that's kind of that blocking method. And I just want to find the shape inside the pot there. So I'm going to paint around that. And then I kind of want to lose the edge in between the cat and the shadow. That's too blue, so I'm going to pick up some of the red, which we use Pyrrole Red now that I have the blue down. I'm just going to kind of dot in with the side of my brush some of the red and even some of the yellow. Even though there's a lot of detail in the dirt, I'm not going to put a lot of details in the dirt because I think it'll take away from the actual subject that I'm trying to portray, which is the cat. So when I start a new painting session, I like to start in areas that aren't critical, so that if as I'm getting warmed up, I don't want to have to do the clutch shot. So I just want to get a sense of some dirt there. I might come back and try lifting off some hard colors. Okay, so I'm going to go into my three colors again. I'm going to activate my pigments by giving them a spray, just to get them so they're not all crusted over and hard. So we have the Pyrrole Red. I'm going to come in here. This is a little too blue to me, so I'm going to just take that temperature up a little bit. So if you want your shadows to be alive, put them warm. Make them warmer than cooler. So the warm colors are the yellow and the red. And if I want the hair to feel cool, I think there's a lot of blue in the shadows of white, blues and violets. And I know, because I've studied color a lot, that if I mix phthalo blue and Pyrrole Red or a warm red, I can get to a kind of a blacky brown pretty quickly without having to do a lot of mixing. And I prefer to mix on the paper rather than on the palette. I think it makes my paintings fresher. So, but more, I want to skew it more toward the warm side on the browny hair than the cool side. but I want to get those values really dark. Same thing here, I'm going to start to bring out some browny bits in here, painting around the head. Get a little bit of the blue just to knock back the brown or the red. And now I'm having the paint quite thick. Like milky strength or stronger. And I'm going to get most of the water and paint off my brush, and I'm just going to blend out that shadow on a soft edge there. And then the brown, I'm going to pull some of that color up right next to the eye so the eyes aren't too isolated. And then this cat has some brown hair under the eye as well. And then some dark hair as it goes back behind. And then I'm going to make a hairy edge here instead of a straight edge. I'm just going to hint at hair as it goes around there, comes up. So then I have to get some more of this orangey color, and I've used the warm orange for the terracotta. Inside of that pot is quite a bit darker than the outside of the pot. Find the edge of the pot, it might be a little too bright, so I'll put a little blue in there just to dull it a little bit, especially the transition from light to shadow. Then over here, the cat is quite warm there, that nice sort of golden color. I'm just going to lift that back. That's actually white hair. So the cat is quite golden there. And then I'm going to think about this ellipse as it comes around. This is the inside of the pot. Underneath here, I find these shadows to be quite blue, so I'm just going to paint some grayed down, but mostly blue color. And then underneath here, I find this to be quite warm. So in the light, it's quite cool, but as it comes into the shadow, it gets pretty warm. And I don't want to necessarily paint every fluted detail. I just want to give the impression of this rope-like fluting. And here I've actually got this coming up too far. Can't get that ridge going around, so I might have to come in with some lifting technique, magic eraser maybe, to fix that there. But I might get away with it just by playing with values. So I'm just coming around, finding this edge as it comes around. It's a pretty straight edge there. On this side it starts to hint at some of that fluting. Starting to get a sense of a pot. And then under here, we'll just a combination of all the three colors. That kind of goes off the page. I've got to be careful not to try to cram it all into the page. Okay, then I'm going to get some of this terracotta color, which is mostly red and yellow, but a tiny bit of blue, just to gray it down a little bit. And I'm going to hint at some of this fluting. I think I need a little more red here. I don't know what it's actually called, but I'm referring to it as fluting. But just kind of this just painting the shadow shape really as it comes around that pot. It doesn't necessarily have to be perfect. And then I'll meet them up on the other side, but I'm not going to make a distinct line necessarily. So in here, there's a little more. Closer it gets to me, the darker I want it. So I need to strengthen my pigment a little bit. And then there's quite a shadow on there, and then the cat is actually casting a shadow somehow, or something is right there. And then the shadow is on the bottom side of that fluting here. And I might actually bring back some of that white lights that I painted over on accident along in here. I don't know, still deciding. So if I mix all three colors together, I get a kind of a gray tone. So around the edges here, I'm just going to hint at some of this, you know, pattern on the pot. I don't really even have to do much except scribble a little bit. Put a little blue in there too. Some sort of floral design there. And just gonna hint at some of these ridges, not paint them all. And this is the cat casting a shadow here. That's really fun. So I'm going to change the color and bring that like that. It's a very bluey shadow. And okay. All right, let's get some stuff going on in here to bring out the main subject. I probably took the masking off too soon around these whiskers. I'm just gonna hint at with the blue some sort of whiskers there. I'm gonna get my red pretty clean, so I'm gonna start with a new mixing area, get some pretty clean red, and I'm gonna paint her nose and mouth area kind of pinkish. And then here it's quite a bit of value change. So put the paint down and then I'm going to blend it out just so I get a distinct value shift as it goes into the shadow there. Mostly the yellow, bring in a little bit of the red as well. It's quite a bright orange there. And then here is her chest. Okay, then up in here is quite bright and warm. Up in here, around the eye. Get a little bit of the red as well because it's kind of an orange colored hair. And then here it turns brown again. So a little more blue and red over here. Pretty thick paint. Coming in there, and then just really painting the light and shadow. So here Looking at colors, I want that to read kind of pinkish. And then I might lift back some hairs in there just to get the sense of her ear. And I'll scrape back some whiskers over here too. That's kind of got her face going on. We can kind of tell what's happening. So now let's get some really good darks in the tail. So tail starts here, and she's got kind of a raccoon tail, so I want to get a hint of that at least. So that's the dark blue, the phthalo. And before I go too far, I want to get a neutralizing dark in there as well. So that color is the red. So I want this to be pretty dark. And then back to the blue to move it around a bit. You can see that just neutralizes that bright blue quite a bit. Okay, and I've got her little hairs there, hinting at the stripes. And then I'll come up here, do some more, leave some untouched. Then she has white stripe, and then this is dark again. And this is her little tail tip, which is quite dark. So need to get some red into that. I'm going to make this tail tip come over the top of the pot, and then I gotta remember to put a shadow in since I'm making that up. But this is dark hair, dark hair, dark hair, dark hair. Cute little tail on the kitty. That's her tip, quite pointy. I'm gonna throw some yellows in there too, just to neutralize it even more. You need all three colors to get to brownish, really brown and gray. But mostly I'm working the blue and red, because I know those two neutralize each other. And this is just dark in here, so I need all three colors. So I'm going to bring out the other side of the tail. So on this side I painted the tail, on this side I'm going to paint around the tail. So I need all three colors to do that, to get it kind of that neutral dark in there. I kind of just like to work one section at a time. Don't want to worry about over here if I'm painting here now, because then I get distracted and forget to do a softened edge or something. Okay, and then this is white hair up in there, so I'm gonna take that murkiness and just sort of smoosh it up into there so it reads like shadow whites. Okay. Put some darker blue in there on the other side of that tail tip, tail edge, I mean. And some red. Just want this to read as dark and murky color. And then as it comes around this side now, she's got some dark hair here. And it's really hard to tell the edge of the cat from the edge of the shadow, so I'm just gonna, if I don't see it, I don't want to make it up necessarily. Well, sometimes I do, but for the most part I like to concentrate on what I actually see and paint that rather than what I know, which is where the edge of the cat is. That's my intellectual brain and not my mind's eye talking. Okay, so she's starting to pop, and all I'm doing really is working the value shapes around the cat, in and around the cat. And here I want to kind of hint at hair tones. So little short choppy strokes. I want to get some red in there to neutralize that bright blue and warm up my shadows. And this is kind of the edge of her hind leg. Okay, so once again, come back here and work that tail. I want to get the sense that it's round. And I want to see this in the picture, the tail and the foot share the same edge. So I want to separate that in my painting because it's what we call a tangent. I haven't really talked about that too much in our lessons yet, but we want to try to avoid a shared edge that leads to visual confusion. And I'm going to soften this edge as it goes into the dirt. All right, I think I need to do something over here just to bring out the tail end, or the back side of the foot over here. So I'm going to find the tail. I'm going to keep that line coming around, and there's kind of a triangle of dirt right there, sort of. So I'm going to dirty that dirt up. And then I'm going to skip a little space, but this is what defines the edge of the cat's hind leg, is right there, that line right there. So I want to be careful not to lose all those whites. So I'm going to keep that subtle. I'm going to get some pink and pop it onto here. This is where her little pads of her toes are, her little pads of her feet. Put that in there. Okay, then I get my terracotta color, which is kind of mostly yellow. Just gonna try to do one stripe to kind of find the edge of that pot there. I guess we have a sign that says what's in that pot, which it would be funny if I did it and said cat nip or something. Anyway, so see how I have my tail coming up here, and I kind of made that up so I could avoid that tangent. So now I have to cast a shadow. So the light seems to be coming from this way. So I want to cast a shadow over the pot from the tail. I have to think about that if I'm going to change what I see. Okay. It would be funny to make that sign say catnip or something. We'll see if I'm going to do that, but that would really be funny. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of dark here and just sort of catch the edge of that pot. I really want to make sure I have defined that this is a cat sitting in a pot. So I'm going to make that not quite so blue. So yeah, I think I will lift a few whites back there. Get kind of a murky color here and find that rope. And soften that edge there by scrubbing back just a little bit. even though the colors aren't exactly what you see in the pictures, because I'm painting the value, it tends to still read correctly. So value is much more important to get right than color. Get some red here, and blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, murky gray color. And just a couple of places here I want this to be pretty dark, just so it feels like it's coming forward. Rather than being in the background. Probably got that ellipse all wrong. Got a bump on my pot. Let's bring this front over here down just a little bit. The shadow side. Yeah, it's looking a little better. And then paint that around there. Okay, so I need to work out what's going on up here and define the paw. I'm going to find the paw. So this is the core shadow, so that's the paw. I'm going to put some dark right behind it just to find the edge of that paw there. And then over here I'm just going to get myself a core shadow. I don't want to go too dark too soon. And there's a critical dark here. So I'm going to get a murky dark. I'm actually going to pre-mix this on the palette a little bit so that I can find this dark right here. Okay, a little too red. I want to find the edge of this paw as it goes up and off the page, just to separate the chest. Okay, and then this is the edge of the cat over here. Put the blue. Now I'm gonna find some red and just brown that down a bit. I think I want to get some towel. Well, that's still wet. I'm gonna lift some of that color back. Got it too dark, too quick. So now I'll stick a little bit of dark bits in there. And then gray tones back there. Just some, it's too yellow. Just hint at hair up in there. So I put the paint down, I'm gonna just kind of mess it up a little bit. Soften some edges. And this here, I'm gonna bring the shadow up a little bit. Paint around that pads of her feet. Let me get some good dark, mix the red and the blue. Get a good dark and really put in some darks on the tip of that tail. So the paint looks a lot darker when it's wet than after it dries, so it can be confusing. I don't think I have this paw quite big enough, but it'll still be all right. Starting to look like a little upside down kitty anyway. I'm gonna put white next to, dark next to white just to pop the white. I'm just gonna make quick little strokes, not repeating the same place, just quick little strokes to give the sense of fur. And then in here it's quite yellow, so I'm gonna bring in some yellow there. That'll make this feel a little closer, maybe. Put some yellow strokes in there. Maybe to bring her paw a little closer. And then back in here, I've got to find the elbow. So elbow of her forward paw. Okay, I'm going to get some dark, mostly red dark, and like that. Let's go ahead and hint at that other bump. I do want to get kind of a greenish tone for her eyes. I might lift back a highlight. Don't want to get too dark in there. Get some of this gray tone, mid-tone gray, and just sort of paint a few hair tones there. And a few little places the whiskers might come out there. And then some dark hairs underneath here. I've only used one size brush the whole painting. Let's have that come down a little bit. Quite dark under there, really pop that face. Let's think about the darks over here. Find the edge of the chest there a little bit. Okay, I might want to do some hints of sticks and leaves and stuff. So I'm just gonna scribble in some darks, changing my colors up, sometimes red, sometimes yellow. Just gonna scribble some darks around into there. Gonna bring in some yellow tones too. Into the dark, just to kind of get a sense of that being dirt in there. Maybe I'll even scratch back a few white highlights. Okay, I want to bring this dark tones in here a little bit. Just little marks to kind of hint at hairs. Get some of that orangey color back here. Mix it up. I don't want it to turn green too much, but okay, I think some really dark right there. Yeah, there's a dark shadow right here from her paw, her back paw that I'm missing. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry off a little, and then we'll see about lifting out some whites here in the front. I wasn't really careful about the spacing on this pot, but of these rope things, but I think it gives the sense of a kitty sitting in a pot. That's what I wanted. And I gotta decide if I want to put that catnip sign. It might be kind of fun. There. I'm looking up here and I'm trying to decide if I need to do anything up here. Does it show that that is her leg there? And do I need to show more of that? Just turning it kind of yellow. All right, just a couple of little things here. I think yeah, pause a little too little, but I think we're okay. It still reads okay. And I mix up a good dark, pre-mix dark. And I'm going to come back in here one more time and just pump up that dark around the tail. And get a grayer version of it and just sort of put a little bit of value on this side so that it feels round. Kitty in a pot. I grew you a cat. Do I want to do anything else on there in the background? Maybe I'll just hint at the background there a little bit. So put the paint down, and now I'm going to blend it out. I'm just going to call out the edge of that pot by hinting at a background back in there. Put a little more blue in that too. Okay, and then I'm just gonna wet my brush and move that around. Hint at something back in there. It's kind of concrete. Same thing over here. Maybe I'll hint at some concrete there. Okay, let's go ahead and let this dry off, and we'll decide if we want any kind of lifting to happen. I do think I need a dark there. A little too much. Brightness there, I don't know. I'm gonna bring that edge out a little bit. So even though this is Kitty is white, has white hair, I gotta paint a lot to make it look white. Pretty cute, I have to admit. This is a very distinctive thing about stripy cats, is that stripe comes off of there, the corner of the eye. Yeah, I'm gonna lift back some whiskers here and there, and maybe highlight in the eye. Gonna go ahead and get some of this blue and just get a shadow on the other side of the nose where the nostrils are. Maybe a blue line there and a blue line there where her little mouth is. And come in here and get some little hairs. Painting around those little hairs. Do I need anything there? Try not to be too literal, but it's hard for me. I love doing the details. My favorite part of painting. Okay, let's let this dry a little bit and see what finishing touches we need to put on it. So I'm going to do a little lifting with Mr. Clean's Magic Eraser. So the first step for me is to find where I want to lift back some white. So I'm going to do a couple of these first to warm up. I'm going to draw them with pencil to sort of get myself started. I don't want to go all the way. So I'm going to pretend there's a shadow there. And I'm going to lift all of that back. So I'm going to take my tape. And make sure it's nice and dry, which it is. And I'm going to tape. I'm using masking tape because I can see through it. And I'm going to take a snap knife, which is really sharp. I can snap off the blade to get to really sharp. And I'm going to cut out my shapes that I want to lift back. So I'm going to start here, and I just want to score it. I don't want to push hard because I don't want to damage the paper underneath. I just want to score it. I actually didn't get the edge that I wanted there. Okay, once I've got the score, I want to find a corner. I'm going to try to keep my head out of it, get the corner started, and then hopefully it'll pull out my little template, erasing template. I can rip that back. So I want to pull it out, so I'm going to create a barrier. That's where I double cut it. Getting that cut out. There we go. I have to snap back to a new blade now, but I kind of like that rough edge because it is a old pot, so it'll be kind of cool. Alright, and then I want to cut out another spot here. Maybe another spot over here. Another spot there. I don't want to connect the two white spots. Cutting is easy. It's getting it pulled up that I find challenging. Okay. Okay, there's that one. There's that one. And there's that one. Let's see, I'll do another one over here. And then one more here. I want this to be really bright. because I'm using phthalo blue, it's not going to come back lifting with just water very well. Okay, and then I'll cut this one here as well. All these little pieces of tape are quite annoying. I think I need, if that's going to be light, I need to also do one over here. I have to come up a little higher on that edge there. Okay, then I'm going to get my magic eraser, which I have in this little baggie, and dip it into some clean water, squeeze out all the excess. Dry off my hands as well. And I do want to put a little bit more barrier tape so I don't over wipe. So I'll put a barrier there as well. On this side should be okay, but just in case, I'm gonna go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so I've got my water squeezed out. Now I'm gonna gently wipe off. Once I wipe, I'm gonna find a clean spot on my rip that off a little bit better. Okay, so I don't know if I want to go all the way back to white, but I definitely need it to be lighter. So don't push too hard, that damages the paper. That successive wipes should lift it back. I have that taped on there. I think I need to also find a light area over here. And that's the tail. So I think I'll do an abbreviated one here. Ugh, come on. The hardest part is getting it started. Come off. Pull the other way. Okay. So just lift that back a little bit. Not pushing too hard. I don't want to damage the paper in case I want to paint over it. I might need to cut one over here too. Really overdoing this, but while I have the tape down. I'm going to get as much as possible. The play of light and shadow is what makes a painting interesting, so I want to get the sense of shadows, cast shadows. So I can rip that and find a cleaner spot. Good old Mr. Clean. Little did he know that he'd be changing the course of watercolor painting. You can kind of see it through the tape, what's going on. And then I can lift the tape off very gently so it doesn't rip my paper. Have to make sure the painting is really dry before you do this. Warning. This is the one that went on last, so I'm going to take that one on first and rip that back. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better than it was. So I do like this over here. And now I'm going to try to do a little lifting just to soften these edges over here as it goes into shadow. So this is my second method of white, not completely white, but I want to soften that hard edge there as it comes around the corner. Just kind of give it a little backward scrub. And then this is the tail cast in a shadow over the top of the pot. So that'll be a little darker right there. Okay, I think that's a little better. And then go ahead and soften that edge over there too. So I didn't take it all the way back to white because I want it to be, you know, different levels of white in this. I'll soften that edge there a little, just a little gentle scrub so it's not quite so distinct and harsh. Quite like that. Let me give a little terracotta color here. So remember, this is my made up shadow. Cast by the tail that I now have coming over the top of the pot. And on the break I noticed I need to end this tail there just to distinguish it from the dirt behind. Wonder if I want to lift a few whites in here too. Need to let it dry now if I do that. And then over in here, this is quite dark in here. You can't really distinguish it from the tail. It's a little too light shadow there. And just pump up that area of dark back in there. Gotta decide if I want to lift off. I'm gonna just try to lift off because it's not really white. I'm gonna put some water down and lift up that white light. Make it lighter right there. Same thing over here. I'm just going to make it a little lighter. I can take off quite a bit of the dark paint and just glaze over that a little with the yellow tone. Let it swim around in there. And then we want to scratch back a little bit of whiskers. So I don't want to do them all, but I do want to get a sense of these white whiskers going into here. So and I want to make them so they don't all go in the same direction. And then she has some that are coming up here, kind of the eyebrow whiskers. Actually, they're not coming out of the normal place that whiskers come out of. Again, this is kind of the last thing you want to do because it does tear up the paper. Gonna make some of those. Don't push too hard, but you gotta be brave. I need a sharp knife. Again, mix it up so they don't all go in the same direction. And let's see, I have one coming across that area. Break up the darks. There we go. Quit while I'm ahead. I'm not overdue. Maybe I'll scratch back a few twigs and such. In these areas here. Let's go ahead and put a couple of things over here. Just to mix it up a bit. Maybe I'll break up that edge, make it look more like hair. Oh, that's what I wanted to do, is right here. This is quite white. Yeah, it gives it a little more glow. Maybe break it up there a little bit, catch a little light. Oh, and the little hairs in here. And the ear. Catching the light. I like that weight right there, but a couple little weights right there. As the light comes around, it sort of bounces around and catches a few glowy bits there. Overdoing it a bit, but I like it. I might want to work this paw a little bit. And then I miss this all-important shadow over here that separates that back forepaw and the chest as it comes around in there. I think that'll make more sense. Yes, that makes a little more sense. Okay. Cute little kitty. Upside down in a pot. I think I'll soften that edge that's from the masking. And this doesn't look like hair here, so I want to work the edges of that shape over there. I might scrub the edge just a little to make it look more like hair. It's too harsh and specific, like a circle. Looks man-made. Mix up that edge a little bit. Just those little details. So I'm gonna stick a little bit of red and orange in there. Same thing over here. A little more orange than yellow. Just dot it around. Right there. Looks a little too blue, greenish. I'm just gonna put some water in there and knock that dark back just a little. Let it cook there for a minute. It's an important dark, but it doesn't look like it belongs in the painting. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit lighter and then maybe put a dark back here just so it doesn't look like I did what I did. So yeah, that's a little better. It's not quite so dark. So I don't have to lift it all the way back to white. I just want to lift it back a little bit. And then put some of that same color over here. And give it a reason to be that color there. It's an odd format. Okay, and then I'm just gonna do a few calligraphy strokes down in here with some darks. When I frame this, it might cut off some of these details, but just to bring those darks forward. Something going on there. And then a few darks over here. Okay, then I'm going to put a signature on it. I can find my signature brush. And maybe I'll pop it in a frame and put it in my show. So I'm just going to use kind of the blue mostly. Okay, blue mostly, a little bit of red, gray it down, put in a signature. I like to come up a bit just in case my mat isn't going to cover the whole thing. Find a clean spot on my towel and I just sort of knock it back a little bit. Alright, we'll call her done. Take off the tape. Hopefully my mat is big enough. Or not too big. Take away this confusing colorful board, and there you have it. Kitty in a pot. Upside down kitty. I'm just gonna like to do this sometimes, just do random, they don't make any sense strokes. I think I'll do that here. Just give it some red there, some red there. Not that much. And then I'm going to get some of this bright blue as well, just to get a sense of some hair coming across that. Maybe that's what's needed right there at that. So Phthalo blue is blue, which blue usually recedes, but since it's such an intense color, it actually comes forward more than most blues, than all blues, all other blues. Okay, and then I'm gonna give her a bright blue whisker with my rigger brush. All the way in. Find those little nostrils. I'm overdoing it, but just a few little final strokes. Maybe break up that line a little.